Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today we are going to talk about hormones and their basic, the endocrine system. This chapter, or rather this session, will be helpful to you to better understand your unit 10 and 11. That is your growth and development, and especially your menarche, menopause and other reproductive biology units that you read in your 11th unit of your physical biology paper 1, right? So first let's start with the system, the endocrine system. Now, what is endocrine system? We can say it is like the chief agent. Now, we know that gene is your blueprint, right? जिसके basis पे your whole growth and development runs. Now, the instruction that the genes are giving become into a reality or turn into a reality by the chief agent, that is the endocrine system. In other words, endocrine system is like your messenger that sends message to the individual organs to transform them into a reality through the hormones that they generate, right? So let us see the whole endocrine system first. The head of the family of endocrine system is the hypothalamus, and pituitary gland, it's like its secretary or the second important person. We can say that hypothalamus is like the prime minister and pituitary gland is like the president, just for the namesake, but both of them hold a very important place in the system, right? Then comes the thyroid gland and the parathyroid gland. Both of them are together. Now, individual glands and their respective hormones we will see in the later portion of the video. But for now, at least let us brief down the glands that belong to the endocrine system, right? So next comes the adrenal glands that are like caps on the kidneys. Then comes the pancreas. I think, I am assuming that you can see that the picture in the video, right? Next comes the ovaries in the females and the testes in the males. So these are your endocrine system glands that produce some kind of hormones. Now, what are the hormones that are important in the prenatal stage? Now, this is because this is an important point. Prenatal stage, the growth hormone is not responsible for your growth. What is more responsible for the growth of the fetus inside the womb of mother is your chorionic gonadotropin. This is CG, is the hormone that is important. Once you come out of the womb, that is, you live your life on your own, that is when the growth hormone released by the pituitary gland plays an important role, right? So what are the major hormones that are important in your prenatal stage, that is in the womb stage? That is the thyroxine, CG and your testosterone, right? Then in the postnatal state, again the thyroxine and the growth hormone becomes important. And in the adolescent period, when the growth spurt happens, that is when multiple hormone generation happens. And why is that so? And that is why we can say that there are a lot of hormonal changes happening which hamper the mood swings in the teenagers in the adolescent period. So this is because a lot of hormones are into the play, right? Namely the thyroxine and growth hormone from the postnatal stage. The important ones that bring secondary sexual characteristics and hit like make the individual hit puberty are LH, that is luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone and gonadal hormone. These are the hormones that play a major role in your adolescent period, right? Now, if we talk about the individual, like if I have to classify the different glands, we can classify them into majorly two types: internal glands and external glands. External in the sense that the secretion or the hormone that they secrete come out of the body directly, okay? They do not function through the blood. That is saliva or the tears from the lacrimal gland. Internal glands are such that transfer the hormones that they generate into the blood, and then the functioning happens. Pancreas is such a gland that plays both the internal and external role. Like an internal gland, it generates insulin, and like an external gland, it generates digestive juice. Now, this is not very important. This is just for your clarification that I'm suggesting. So generally, what mechanism is followed is such that the hypothalamus is the thing that is there in the brain, right? Even the pituitary gland. But hypothalamus gives the initial instruction. We can say the head of the family that we already discussed, that hypothalamus is like the head. So that hypothalamus generates some kind of a message to the pituitary, okay? And that hormone is known as thyrotropin releasing hormone, that is TRH, which comes to pituitary. Pituitary gives a message to thyroid gland through the hormone, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, that is TSH, and then the thyroid produces T3 and T4 hormones that play individual role, that we will see later. But this is the general procedure that is generally followed. Now, first, if we talk about pituitary gland, so we saw where is pituitary. Yahan par bhi also you can see hypothalamus and pituitary are together linked, okay? So now, if we see the pituitary gland per se, there is the anterior lobe, that is आगे and पीछे, okay, anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary, and there is a middle lobe also. Okay, there is a middle lobe also, but which is very small and not that important role that it plays. But anterior pituitary is something that the pituitary generates itself. The hormones that are stored in the posterior pituitary are the ones that hypothalamus produces itself and sends it to the pituitary further. Okay, so there are two posterior pituitary hormones, which are oxytocin and vasopressin, which are produced by hypothalamus but stored in the pituitary gland. Now if we talk about the anterior pituitary, there are multiple hormones which we will see individually and their impact also. Now, if we talk about growth hormone, okay, we saw that in the fetal stage, CG is the hormone that plays the role in the growth. And in the adult stage, we do not require a growth hormone because our growth has already reached its peak. So, where does the growth hormone play the major role? In your childhood and your adolescent, where the two growth spurts, that is your childhood growth spurt and your adolescent growth spurt, occur. Now, adolescent growth spurt has been asked in 2021 paper. So, what are the two hormones that majorly play important role in your growth spurt? Is your androgen and GH. Androgen we will see further down. Okay, for now this is something that you can have in mind, that growth hormone is an important factor in you achieving your growth. Now if there is a hindrance or lack of release of growth hormone, your growth will be stagnant. You could be dwarf. Okay, you mentally and physical, both the growth are hampered. Next comes the TSH, that is thyroid stimulating hormone, like the one that we saw, that pituitary gland gives that as a message to the thyroid to produce T3 and T4. Now, individual T3 and T4 roles we will see further when we see thyroid gland. Then comes the adrenal gland hormones, that is ACTH. Adrenal gland, again, it is like when you face some kind of an adverse situation, that is when the adrenaline hits, right? Then the GTH, that is gonadotropic hormone, which is related to your gonadal glands, that also we will see further. And then comes the prolactin. Now prolactin and oxytocin work together, that is anterior and your posterior lobe work together. How? Prolactin focuses on the production of breast milk once the pregnancy happens. So breast milk is produced through prolactin hormone. Likewise, if you talk about oxytocin, the release of that breast milk is done through oxytocin. So that is the one. And also oxytocin plays an important role in stopping the blood postpartum. That is after you give the birth, the blood should not come out of the body in excess. So that is stopped by this generation of hormone. Then the other hormone that we talk about is vasopressin. Now it is like an antidiuretic. That means it tries to balance the water level and everything else in the water through which the BP is maintained, that is blood pressure is maintained. So that is the main work of vasopressin, which is in the posterior lobe. And again, I'm telling you, hypothalamus is the one that makes it, but it is stored in the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. I hope this is clear to you. Now these terms when you write, okay, when you read it from Peanut or any other book that you read physical anthropology from, you will have a good clarity about these hormones that are released. Otherwise, generally it is very tough for non-biology student to understand these aspects in the physical anthropology part of your anthropology syllabus, right? So I hope things are getting simpler for you. Okay, then comes the pineal gland. Pineal gland is also there in your brain section. Okay, now pineal gland looks something like this, and it is the one that helps you to have a good night sleep. Melatonin hormone is released by pineal gland, and that is sleep related. What else does it do is that it stops, or rather does not allow the release of gonadal hormones and the adrenal hormones before you hit puberty. Okay, so in a sense that GTH and ACTH are always present in the body, but they are not released out of the glands. Why? Through the this pineal gland that stops the release of such hormones before the puberty is hit. Okay, so this is something. इसलिए बोलते हैं ना कि प्यार में नींद उड़ गई. So प्यार, when does प्यार happen in the teenage life? So उसमें नींद उड़ गई मतलब now the release of these hormones are happening. So आपकी नींद उड़ गई. तो मेलेटोनिन का जो है इम्पैक्ट कम हो रहा है, आपकी स्लीप बर्बाद हो रही है. So that is how you can remember somewhat. Okay, next comes the thyroid gland. Now thyroid is an important gland. Okay, I'll show you the picture also where it is. So it basically releases three kind of hormones, and there is a together working gland, that is parathyroid gland, which releases a parathormone hormone. Now calcitonin and parathormone work in tandem. Okay, so to say that if there is excess of calcium present in the blood, okay, so what does it do? That calcium content is more, so what does it do? It sends it to the bones. That job is of calcitonin. Okay, now when you find that the blood has less of calcium, it this parathormone hormone brings out the calcium from the bone to the blood. So this is how they work in tandem. Then T3 and T4 are have a lot of important role, like they control the metabolism. That is why when thyroid, when you get thyroid ka problem, so you generally tend to increase weight because of metabolism, because these are the hormones that control the metabolism. Likewise, they convert the food that you eat into energy. They control the heartbeat, they control the body temperature also, and the mental and physical development. So very, very important role that the thyroid gland plays. And thyroid gland is over here in the neck region. This looks like the hyoid bone that we saw in the human skeleton video. If you have not watched that, you can watch that. तो larynx है, उसके नीचे है आपका hyoid bone, then the pharynx. Okay, so likewise, so then the thyroid gland over here and the trachea नीचे, ठीक है? So this is how. And in the behind, if you see the thyroid gland from the back side, you will find the parathyroid glands, 4 in number, like wings of this looks like a wing of butterfly, something like that. Okay, so then comes the thymus gland. Now thymus also, it is such a gland that develops till 13 years of your age, that is till you hit the puberty, and after that it goes into the negative. Now what is the role of this thymus gland? It produces thymosin hormone, which is related to your immunity levels. Okay, so even in your GS answers you can quote this statement. Okay, now it builds T cell, etc. Now we don't have to go into the details, just remember what work individual glands do. So this is also present near your lung area, which has a cortex and a medulla. Okay, and it also looks like a angel के जो पंख होते हैं वैसे आपका thymus gland दिखता है. Okay, then comes the adrenal gland. Adrenal gland, like I told you, it is like a cap over your kidney. Okay, over here also we find a cortex and a medulla. Medulla, how will you remember? Something that is in the middle, that is your medulla. Medulla. Okay, and the cortex, that is outside the range. Now these two individual portions develop different hormones. Medulla produces protein hormones. It has no role to play in the growth aspect. So if a question in your 10th unit comes talking about factors related to endocrine system that play a role in your growth, so your androgens, growth hormone, all such things will come. But so that will help you to write a better answer, so to say. Okay? Now cortex is the one that generates androgen, which plays an important role in your growth hormone. The rest of them, like especially the medulla hormones and the mineralocorticoid hormone that is generated from cortex, do not play a very major role in the growth process. Okay, और इनका major काम क्या होता है? That is also related to metabolism, reproductive organs, balancing electrolytes, etc. Now medulla, because it is not very much contributing to the growth, what is its major function is releasing the adrenaline and non-adrenaline hormones. That is fight and flight. Suppose you encounter a lion or any kind of adverse situation. Okay, so your body mechanism to deal with such an adverse situation is handled through the release of adrenaline rush जो हम कहते हैं. So that is your adrenaline hormone. Okay, next comes the pancreas gland. Like I already told you, it has internal and external functions, or rather it is an internal and external gland. So internally it produces insulin. Likewise, how calcium was transferred from blood to bones, depending on wherever it is excess. Likewise, here glucose is converted into glycogen, and glycogen to glucose depending on whether glucose is present or no. So sometimes when you starve or you're on fasting or something, your body gains energy through the stored glucose in the form of glycogen. So this is what it is, the role of pancreas is. And the second external role that it plays is the secretion of digestive juices. Okay, this is your pancreas. ऊपर भी हमने देखा था उसका location. So in the order only if you follow, you will be able to locate their locations also, and it will be convenient for you if you have to draw a diagram also. Then comes the gonadotropic hormone, which is again released by pituitary gland. We already saw. So FSH, just like prolactin was producing the breast milk and your oxytocin was releasing it. Likewise, the FSH produces the sperms and your ova, and your LH tries to release them out. Okay, so this is the function majorly in the men. So wherever the word genesis comes, it is like a base word. So genesis means birth. So birth of sperm, birth of oo or ova, right? And the other factor or other important role that FSH plays in the woman is the development of secondary sexual characteristics. Likewise, the secondary sexual characteristics in the male are produced through the LH. So these are something that you have to remember in your 11th unit. For your 11th unit, it is more important. So this is something that is you can have you can pause the video and have a major look at it. Then comes the most important one, that is hypothalamus. So if I have to show you the diagram, so this is how it works. Hypothalamus generates GnRH. So we will see those hormones when we talk about hypothalamus and its 7 to 9 hormones. So it gives the information to pituitary. Pituitary gives the information that release LH and FSH, and that is how then the ovary starts producing ova and releasing it. Okay, so this is what happens in the body. And all this happens in your puberty stage. Okay, till that stage it is all controlled. Then comes the hypothalamus. Because hypothalamus is something that is situated in your brain, so the hormones that are released by the hypothalamus are termed as neurohormones or releasing hormones. That means they are stimulating the other glands to produce the hormones. Okay, so what are the major hormones that are important? Thyrotropin, releasing hormone. So in that order we saw, hypothalamus gives the instruction to the pituitary gland through passing the message through the TRH. Then pituitary glands gives it to thyroid, passing on TSH hormone, and then thyroid produces T3 and T4. Right? So this is the message. Then GHRH, that is growth hormone. So it allows you to release the growth hormone. Then comes the GnRH, that is it is also known as LHRH. Now this is very important that you can write in your 11th unit. Okay, so LHRH is present, or all the because hypothalamus is there since your birth, right? So this LHRH will also be there since your childhood, especially in the females. Okay, but it is just present, so it will stimulate FSH to be produced. FSH stimulates estrogen to be produced, but estrogen levels are not so high that they generate LHRH to hit puberty. Okay, but during puberty what happens? The content or the quantity of LHRH increases. Okay, likewise FSH increases, likewise estrogen increases, and because of that shoot in the estrogen, pubertal changes occur. Okay, one more interesting fact is that if you might be knowing about chronological age and biological age, right? So we generally talk about those terms, but when we talk about Maynard and the factors that affect Maynard, be 2020 question that is on your secular trend. So in all such questions, you can write such points as a further point. Like bone age is more important than the chronological age when you have to determine the Maynard. So that does not mean that, this point means that if you are at the age of 13, okay, that does not necessarily mean that you're going to hit a Maynard or hit puberty, right? But your bone age, the density of your bone will determine when will you hit the Maynard, which also suggests a secular trend happening in the society. Okay, this point, or rather this connection, was given by Marshall and Limongi, that you can remember. So these are some of the important ones, and some of the less important ones, that is corticotropin releasing hormone, somatostatin, not very important for our syllabus. We never write these terms, so it's okay if you don't know about them. Then comes oxytocin and vasopressin that we already saw in the pituitary posterior lobe where they are collected. Okay, now if you have to see the place, hypothalamus and the pituitary gland, so they look like this. Okay, hypothalamus looks like this and it releases, and this is the anterior lobe and this is the posterior lobe of your pituitary gland. So this is how the diagram looks like. So this was about your hormonal sections. I hope this video is helpful to you to understand your physical anthropology even better. And in the next video I will come up with the topic that is chromosomal aberrations. Not Klinefelter syndrome and everything that we see in the syllabus, but the behind the scenes of that. That is, why do such aberrations occur? Okay, so such kind of a question has already been asked in 2020. So you should know the mechanism why such things are happening. The behind the scenes should also be known for the changing trend that is happening in anthropology these days and UPSC. So I will see you next in that video, and if you like the content and if it is easing your preparation, do consider liking and subscribing the channel, and also comment down below if you want to suggest me any changes. I would be happy to do that, and also try to share it to as many people as possible. And yeah, that is it. Stay happy and keep learning. Goodbye.